Good afternoon, and welcome to the DFS Army YouTube channel. I am Razzle11, and you can find me on X at Razzle11Grinds. Going to take a look at the pitching for today, the 2nd of August. It is Friday. We do have an 11-game main slate. Um, Nothing horrendous from a weather standpoint. New York and Toronto looks to be the one that we need to pay attention to the most. Um, but we will just take a look at the pitching options that we see. Try to build a pitcher pool. It is later in the afternoon. Still not feeling very well, but thought I would try to get this video out for you guys. Um, at the top, we get Joe Ryan. Should be one of the most popular pitchers on the slate against whatever the White Sox are rolling out there. Ryan is a minus 325 favorite in this matchup. K prop of 7.5 with juice on the under. Hasn't been overly sharp, but even when giving up 3 runs, he's still crossing the 20 fantasy point mark. Playing for his upside, he obviously has of the ability into the mid 30s, maybe even higher. One really solid start against the White Sox, and one decent but not great. Was a quality start, but he just didn't rack up any fantasy points. The other one, 24.5. Obviously, he's under 10K, so we're not spending way up for anybody on the slate. I think Joe Ryan just makes a ton of sense, obviously. Cutter Crawford is interesting. I just don't think I'm going to get to him in my pool. He's had a big home run issue of late. He goes through stretches where he allows some home runs and then he cuts it down. But allowing 8 over his last 2, big red flag. The issue here is that Texas's overall lineup has not been swinging it all that well. So there is some interest in using him. I just don't think I'm going to get there. Really, it comes down to Crawford or Gosman as kind of like a last man in. I did look kind of through these pitchers' options before I started recording. So I feel like the last guy in is going to be one of those two. I just like the recent trends for Gosman a little bit more. His Ks are there, coming off of a complete game. He has the upside. He's been much stronger on the road. I realize it is against the Yankees. The Yankees are a difficult squad. But he traditionally has a lot of strikeouts against the Yankees. It's just whether they can get to him with the home run ball. Soto, Judge has destroyed him with home runs, but also Judge has struck out quite a bit. His K prop's at 5.5 with juice pretty strongly on the over. He is a slight underdog, but I think if things come together for him and he throws a gem or just a strong performance, he has a chance at being one of the top pitchers on the slate. With the Yankees winning, I just don't see Stroman putting up the strongest performance. So that's why in this game, even though he's the underdog, I would prefer to use Gosman. He hasn't been the same Gosman as we're used to. This is true, but again, the last 4 starts or so, it's been really steady overall. Mid 20s after taking an L. So you're looking at nearly 30 fantasy points if he picks up the W there. Obviously, coming off of a 32 fantasy point performance. I just like the way that he's throwing it right now. Trends are a little better than what Crawford is with his home run rates of late. Blake Snell announced the starter a little bit later in the afternoon, coming off of a career high of 15K performance. Just didn't get the W, even though he's throwing the ball much better. It's great to see. I know a lot of people thought he was just washed. I said it early in the season, like he missed all of spring training. All these starts were just going to be him getting into shape and getting going. And now look at the way he's thrown it. Walks are always going to be an issue. Strikeouts generally shouldn't fluctuate this much. The Cincinnati lineup overall actually has not been swinging it very well. So I do really love Snell's upside. He is a minus 135 road favorite. He does have a K prop of 7.5 with juice on the under. Obviously, we have to pay attention to some weather in Cincinnati. which is something we need to kind of worry about. But if we can get 5+ innings out of Blake Snell, I think there's just a ridiculous amount of upside in this matchup. Obviously, there's a lot of downside to it too. Ballpark's great for hitting. Cincinnati has some power. They have quite a bit of speed. Home runs, stolen bases. Could be rough on Snell, but just based on his upside, I'm very interested. Abbott on the other side was solid against San Francisco. Didn't really rack up strikeouts. His K numbers have been much better at home. Gives up a few more home runs per nine at home, or not a few more, but a little bit more in the home run per nine category when pitching at home. So that's obviously a worry. But I think he's viable. I'm just not super excited to be using him. We need him to pick up strikeouts to get there. I just don't think San Francisco is a huge K opponent. Um, so right now I'm leaning more towards going pretty light on Andrew Abbott, to be honest, as I kind of think through it here. Um, and it almost makes me want to reconsider Crawford over Abbott just because I think Crawford might have more upside in this spot. But that's something I'll have to think through as I start building out my player pool. Schellenbach going to be super popular, coming off of his best major league performance, taking on a Miami squad that traded away much of its power, and Jazz, De La Cruz, Josh Bell. Uh, Not sure if I'm missing anybody off the top of my head, but um, he obviously has a lot more home runs on the at home, but K numbers are better at home. Like I said, coming off of an elite performance, 21 plus fantasy points in 3 out of his last 4 starts. I assume he's a sizable favorite. Minus 250. That's pretty sizable to me. K prop of 5.5 with juice on the over as well. So probably an extremely popular option on the slate. Probably more popular than Joe Ryan just because of the $900 savings. Um, no reason to argue that one at all. Kikuchi, it's tough. His starts coming into the trade deadline weren't very strong, but I think there's upside. I mean, the K's are there, right? Um, Tampa Bay's lineup should be weaker against left-handed pitching. Obviously, him pitching in Houston is a little bit of a worry. Some home runs can get to him, so there's a lot of volatility to it. But I am kind of interested in Kikuchi in his first start. K prop is 6.5 with juice on the over. He's a minus 162 favorite. Game total of just 7.5 with juice on the under as well. So, uh, kind of expecting a pitcher's duel in that one. So, I'm going to sprinkle Kikuchi into my player pool at this point. Brian Wu is interesting. I don't think he's going to make my pool. Just not a fan of him being limited right now. I know Philadelphia's overall lineup has kind of struggled a little bit, but I just don't really want to pick on Philadelphia right now. Especially with a pitcher that's looking at being a limited, around 70 pitches or so. It's just not really my thing on a large slate. So uh, I wouldn't blame you if you wanted to sprinkle some Wu in. I'm just not going to get there. He's a slight minus 115 favorite. K prop of 4.5 with juice on the under. On the other side, Tyler Phillips is K prop of 4.5 with juice strongly on the over, coming off of his best performance at the major league level, complete game shutout. We obviously could see a little bit of regression, but that K upside in this matchup is really intriguing. Not a huge K guy, so I get that, but I like the upside he presents us, even though he's a very slight road underdog. Like I mentioned, Wu and the Mariners are minus 115 home favorites. So I think I'm going to use Phillips a little bit in this spot. As we scroll down, there's just 2 other names that I'm looking at, to be honest, at this point. It's going to be Gavin Stone because people are just going to blindly play him. I like what his upside is. When he goes on the road, even if it is against the White Sox, and he throws a complete game shutout, drops 40 plus fantasy points, that shows us some ridiculous upside. So I'm very interested. and the fact that he's just been far stronger on the road, which is where he's at this evening. I'm going to be interested there. I know the A's have been hitting with some power again. He's still a minus 148 road favorite. K prop of 4.5, which is on the over. So I think he's certainly in play. Uh, so I have no problem going there. Some people are trying to talk to me about Blackburn. I didn't like the way he looked at his last start, which happened to be against the Angels. Um, he has plenty of experience against the Angels, having been traded from Oakland, but I'm just not really going to get there. Um, the only other guy down here that interests me enough is going to be Shane Baz in that Houston game. We know Houston doesn't strike out a ton, but they are struggling a bit overall as a team right now. Jordan struggling. Uh, Baz definitely dominates right-handed bats. Um, and we mentioned that it was supposed to be a lower scoring game. I like the upside that's potentially there for Shane Baz. Not somebody I want to go super heavy on. I think we're only projected him around 7 or 8% owned, which means that I'm probably only going to go, in upwards of 12 to 15%, which isn't all that much on this slate. So, but I think he's somebody I want to sprinkle in because that upside is definitely there on this slate. So, but there we have it. There's the first look at pitching. If you enjoy what I bring to you, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, turn the notification bell on, get the alert anytime we drop videos here at DFS Army. If you want to join us and get access to our coaches, tools, sheets, Discord, etc., I will put links in the description below. You can use promo code RAZ, that's RAZ, for 10% off monthly. And as always, best of luck, everybody.